Washington is the most trade-dependent state in the country, but our regulatory process for trade and infrastructure investments has sadly become longer and more uncertain, jeopardizing our ability to lead the way on trade. Keep Washington Competitive, a business and labor coalition, believes that by fostering a regulatory environment that provides certainty and encourages investment, we will ensure our state is positive to thrive. It is paramount that our lawmakers and regulators work together with business and labor to sustain our state's vital trade industries for future generations of Washingtonians. Learn more at keepwashingtoncompetitive.com.
Welcome to Startup Spokane, where hosts Steve Traben and Megan Garrett explore the excitement and momentum growing throughout Spokane's expanding startup community. Now, here are your hosts, Steve and Megan.
Welcome to Startup Spokane on Spokane Talks Online, your podcast home for everything startup and entrepreneurship related in the Spokane region. I'm your host today, Steve Traben, going solo. Megan's taking the month of December off, lucky her. As you know, Startup Spokane is a program of Greater Spokane Incorporated, and we want to provide you with our region's story about entrepreneurship. We want to educate you about the resources that exist in our region's ecosystem. We want to share ways for you to plug in and connect to those resources so that if you're launching or growing a business, you have what you need to be successful. Today, we are wrapping up a 4-part series on entrepreneurship and innovation, and I'm really excited because this final episode is all about the art and execution of entrepreneurship, and we want to talk to our guest, John Bryant from NoLi, here in just a minute about how he and his brewery have used innovation as a means to rebrand, and then later in the program to talk about how they used innovation to overcome adversity in their business. So John, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And maybe we should just start with a little backgrounder on John Bryant, because you've got an incredible background and experience. Just give us a snippet.
Yeah, quickly, my wife's family moved here from Naples through the St. Al's Church was sponsored in 1920. Wow. So her roots go very deep. My father played football at Eastern, got a little scholarship out of Mossy Rock, Washington. And that's how our roads kind of led to Spokane a long time ago. Career-wise, I was pretty fortunate to start out of Washington State University at the Rainier Brewing Company, which also is a partner brewery with the Blitz Weinhardt, which was Henry Weinhardt's.
Yeah. Rainier Brewery, wow. I mean, talk about going back in time. I went to WSU as well, and we drank Rainier in the early 80s. So.
Yeah, the big R.
Right?
So I had a lot of great experience on different facets of brewing in the beer industry. Spent about a decade in Bend, Oregon at Deschutes Brewery. And our family then moved out to Colorado for about 9 years, where I was fortunate enough to run 2 different craft breweries. And we had a big pulling to come home. And Spokane was a big part of it with the craft beer industry. And being a part of the community has always been big to Cindy's family and mine. And we thought this was a great place to try to really root in and try to make craft beer part of the culture, the economy, and create a movement.
And you were really, like, I would almost use the term pioneer of craft brewing, right? I mean, back in those days, you had the big breweries, but you didn't, this craft brew momentum. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, craft brewing really took off in about 1988. Mm-hmm. So by the time I was working at Rainier Brewery, Red Hook was just starting to get going, Grant's was just starting to get going, and then Mike Hale of Hale's Brewing was just starting to get going. And kind of observing that in Washington is what really pulled me into it.
Right.
And you just see how it affects neighborhoods, communities, how it's really hands-on versus beer being made in St. Louis or overseas or in Canada and shipped to Spokane. Yep. We want to be part of creating it in Spokane.
Yeah, so talk a little more about that specific journey, right? So you and Cindy are back in Spokane, and what happens?
Well, it kind of starts with couch surfing. I got to thank my dear friends Linnell Caudell and John. I slept on their couch for a couple of months. Lori and Rod Burke. Rod's a teacher up on the South Hill at Jefferson. And
know them both well.
Literally, as we were traveling back and forth from Colorado, because my kids were still back there, and my wife, that I just needed a place to stay as we really worked on the business plan. And thanks go out to Mark and Stacy Irvin, our original business partners on Northern Lights, which we changed up and reinvented and became NoLi. But it's a community-wide effort in craft brewing, and it really hasn't been a regional craft brewery made and developed out of Spokane since maybe Prohibition.
Yeah, and today, how many craft breweries do you think we have here just in our local Spokane?
I believe the number's somewhere about 38
That's
within
amazing.
40 miles.
Isn't that,
and
that's incredible.
4 years ago, there might have been a handful.
Yep, and and I have a little bit of background in the wine business,
Yeah.
and so I've experienced some of the same. So, John, when I think of innovation and Northern Lights to NoLi, I think you guys made a complete rebrand and a relaunch of the business, and I think there's innovation involved in that. Do you want to spend a few minutes talking about that?
Yeah, I mean, innovation starts within people and a desire, a movement, a cause, something special. And so a lot of the innovation really started with what do we want to accomplish and be a part of in Spokane. And it's looking at what isn't being served and what the customer wants to enjoy. And so we went in and really reinvented not only just brand names, but beers, beer recipes, equipment, process, just how we all go about it every single day. And the bigger cause was to create a craft brewing movement in Spokane.
Right.
And the innovation really started with what does that mean? And it means maybe we want to service a great India Pale Ale that's made of the city, which gave rise to Born and Raised IPA. And we really felt that was a nice association. It has the Monroe Street Bridge, the gondolas, the clock tower. It really speaks to the icons of Spokane. But then we needed a beer that backed that up. And Born and Raised IPA has this, is I think, a great malt backbone, great hopping, and it really speaks to what I think people in Spokane love to drink.
Right.
And that was really kind of one of the basis that we move forward on and go, how do we continue that?
Yeah.
And kind of like a chef in the kitchen, we tried to source as many local ingredients we could to make the greatest beers possible from our region.
So when you talk about craft brewing in Spokane, and there's now lots of craft breweries, is that a good thing, or how do you perceive that market as a guy that has a very large craft brewery here? Is that okay?
I think it's great. If you go back 4 years ago, there was the Viking,
Right.
Maybe the Post Street, the Manitou Tap House,
Yep.
and that was Swinging Doors and a few others, but that was really the craft beer movement. I'm missing a few others in there.
Yeah.
But you flash forward to today, and Patrick at the Manitou opened the Blackbird,
Yep.
and the Davenport properties with Linnell and Walt and their whole crew. I mean, you've got not only just the Davenport property, but the Table 13. You have these places serving more beer. You have Durkin's. You have, and I'm forgetting a lot of people here. Pints up north, the Valley.
But there's this critical mass.
Yeah,
right?
there's a movement, and
Yeah.
and our hope is that we need to create more of a reason to people not only to embrace local craft beer in Spokane, but to bring tourism in.
Right.
Otherwise, we're wrestling over that same piece of pie.
Yep.
And our mentality is if we can make it bigger and broader, then that should elevate everyone and create more room. And one example would be, I'd say 5 years ago, you'd ask somebody from Seattle, if they're going to Spokane, they're like, I'm going through Spokane.
Right.
I'm going to Coeur d'Alene. I'm going to Missoula. I'm going somewhere else. And now you see with a lot of investment in the city, people are coming to Spokane. And if we can get them to make coming to Spokane for beercations part of their
Yep.
bucket list, go see NoLi Brewhouse, go see River City, go see 12 Strings, go see some other, oh, by the way, go up to the Manitou Tap House, go down to the Post Street, go to Durkin's, go up to the Swinging Door, spend the night in a hotel, and that economy just begins to grow.
Absolutely. Our friends at GSI and Visit Spokane are going to be thrilled when they hear this.
Right.
Because you really are. I mean, you're creating a destination for Spokane, and
Yes.
it takes a lot of different elements, and the craft brew scene is important, the winery scene is important, the arts and culture,
Yeah.
all of that works hand in hand. So John, talk for a couple of minutes about NoLi in Spokane, but NoLi is now reaching way beyond Spokane, right? I mean, you've received some national awards recently.
Yeah.
Talk about just kind of your company's movement outside of our region as well.
Yeah, we have almost 60 people now that work at NoLi. Nearly all of them live in Spokane. We have a handful that live on the west side of the state, working in sales and marketing from Portland to Bellingham. But I think the big part is this: you have to have an exhausting belief in the future, and you have to have an exhausting belief in what could be. I've had friends that basically told me they laughed at us 4 or 5 years ago when we said we could make Spokane over time a craft beer destination like a Bend, Oregon, like a Fort Collins, but in our own way. We don't want to be those cities, but we want to help Spokane evolve and to do something really great. And people don't always say, there's no way, it ain't going to happen. And I think today you see people starting to see the glimmer of hope that it is and is happening.
And you actually created a designation for this Spokane Style Beer.
Yeah, we have Spokane Style.
Yeah, so talk about that, because that's innovative, right? And
Absolutely. I mean, part of the thing we wanted to do was build pride in the region, not only just in Spokane, but across the Pacific Northwest and across the country. To address the earlier question, we've been really fortunate to win 21 international medals. We entered these contests that are in Belgium and in Germany and Japan and Australia and around the world, the Great American Beer Fest in Denver, that compete against the very world's best of all breweries. And to bring home 21 of those in 4 years speaks to the competition in Spokane. As all beers are rising up and getting better. It speaks to the confidence that we have, that I think some of the best beers in America now, we can say are brewed in Spokane or in the country, which is incredibly powerful. Part of the Spokane Style was to create a designation for the craft brewers of this area.
Yeah, so it's not just for NoLi, it's for all the craft brewers, right?
We applied for a federal designation for a new beer, a beer style.
Yeah.
So as amber or as a Belgian, there's now a Spokane Style. Essentially what it states is that the beers that are being made in Spokane by the ingredients of this region. And it works really well because we have malt from the southern end of Canada over to Montana, in Spokane, northern Idaho, some of the world's greatest malt, barley malt. And the hops, which we use 100% of, are from Yakima. And so we're really gifted with all the resources around us. And the water, the city water here is some of the best in the world. It's phenomenal.
Yep, it's great water.
Yeah.
Well, John, we're having a great conversation about you and NoLi and innovation. And I encourage our listeners to come back after the break, because we're going to talk about some adversity that you faced during a really horrific windstorm in 2015. So stay with us. This is Steve Traben with Startup Spokane on Spokane Talks Online.
In touch, online all the time. SpokaneTalksOnline.com.
Home. That word means so much more than its 4 letters suggest. R, that letter, stands alone. When you see someone wearing a blue block R, you're talking with a realtor. Your local neighborhood realtor can help you find your first home, your next home, or help you sell the one you have. Next time you think home, think realtor. The brand makes the difference. This message brought to you by the members of the Spokane Association of Realtors.
Last year alone, Avista customers saved over 53 million kilowatt hours of energy. How? By caulking their windows, programming their thermostats, replacing their incandescent light bulbs with LEDs. Simple things, really. But the energy they saved was enough to power more than 4,000 homes for an entire year. Way to save, everyone. Way to save. Find your way to save at avistautilities.com.
A special thank you to our friends at Tom Sawyer Country Coffee, the official coffee supplier here at Spokane Talks Online.
Snoring can disrupt marriages and cause serious health problems. Call Sleep Better Northwest first, the experts in dental sleep medicine. Their medically approved, custom-fit oral appliances will have both you and your partner sleeping better and being more productive throughout your day. Don't wait. Snoring and sleep apnea can signal potential strokes or heart attacks. For more information, visit needbettersleepnow.com and download our health guide today. Sleep Better Northwest, the experts in dental sleep medicine.
Welcome back to Startup Spokane on Spokane Talks Online, where we're talking to John Bryant of NoLi about innovation. And what a great first segment. It makes me really thirsty, actually, John. But I want to spend some time talking about the events that occurred last November. November 17th, 2015 was a really, really bad day for a lot of us in the region. Many of our listeners know I work for Avista. You had a brewery and you lost power. Let's talk about the impacts of the storm, but how you overcame the challenges that you were presented with.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of people, that was a pretty dark day. I remember Tim Robinson was there from Visit Spokane, and the lights started flickering in our pub at 4:15. I believe it was a Gonzaga basketball game that evening, or it was the next day. And the lights started flickering, and then boom, there goes the power. Well, to run a brewery, you have to have glycol chillers, and you have to have power to run those to make sure the tanks, as they're fermenting, stay at exact right temp to do all the things correctly. And when that power goes down for a certain amount of hours, basically the beer isn't going to taste the way you want it to.
Right.
And that day, the power goes out. You have to empty out the pub. And then you walk outside and you start just really seeing the horrific damage that started happening. And not only did we lose a significant amount of money in beer we had to destroy,
Right.
we were just getting ready that week to launch the first ever can from NoLi. The Born and Raised IPA cans were scheduled to launch that week.
So you had a lot of things sort of lining up. And
Yeah.
at what point, I mean, like how many hours into this outage did you realize, oh boy, we've got a real problem here?
I think once we turned on, we found the news,
Yeah.
and it said this is a pretty devastating storm that continues to get worse, and there's no let up right now. The winds are going to continue. We knew we were down at least till tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And then as you were able to find power to get the news, you realize this was going to be a number of days.
Yeah. And that's where things got really crazy scary for you, right?
It got really crazy scary because then the snow hit, and then
Yep.
the freeze hit. And what I remember is as people's freezers were unplugged and the refrigerators, they were losing all their food. And then everybody was leaving their homes who could, going to hotels or motels or staying at friends' house. And our distributors' power went out for up to 5 days. The South Hill, like the Rosars, Benedito's, Super One, Manitou, some of those people were out for 8 or 9. That was the most extended.
Right.
My house personally was 7 or 8, but the brewery was out a couple. And
Yeah.
it was just enough time to take out a number of tanks. And we called our insurance agent, and he came down, and it's pretty dark because what I learned was we were investing at such a heavy rate into the brewery, the community, our people, just everything that makes what we're trying to do at NoLi is I overextended. And we were banking on cash flow to come in on the beer that was made,
Right.
that was going to ship, that was going to sell. What happened was beer got destroyed in the tanks. The beer couldn't get out because the trucks were frozen in. Our distributor did not have power. And so for essentially about 2 weeks, we had no revenue.
And so, and that's just devastating. And for our listeners' frame of reference, I mean, when you talk about a tank, we're talking about how many gallons or?
Talking about 60 barrels of beer.
Yeah.
And there are about 30 gallons in a barrel.
Yeah.
And,
So
hundreds of thousands of dollars.
yeah. So hundreds of thousands of dollars that you had that was destroyed.
Yeah.
Lots of revenue, lost revenue.
Yeah.
And that amounted to, again, I mean, I don't want to put numbers out there, but I mean, it's a lot of money.
It was six
right?
figures and more. Yeah. Yeah.
And so how on earth did you overcome all of that? I know I remember getting a phone call from you saying, hey, Steve, I need a solution. I need to know when
Yeah.
my power is going to come on. I would like for you
Yeah.
guys to make it a priority. And, you know, we talked
Yeah.
through all of those things.
Yeah.
But there was a significant concern about, about getting your power restored.
Yeah, I mean, at a
Time
certain
to
time, then you drive around and you go, wow, maybe this isn't so bad for us. I mean, as a lot of people in the community, you go to bed really early when it's dark and you don't have power at home.
Yeah.
And I found a way to get a flashlight and sit up and make coffee. And at 2, 3 in the morning, just try to figure out, one, you have to write it out.
Yeah.
Okay. The best thing you can do that is try to save what you have.
Right.
And then you begin to plan the best you can for the future.
I mean, for just again perspective, you had supply issues, you had lost revenue because your pub wasn't open,
Yeah.
you had supply chain issues because
Yeah.
all the grocery stores and facilities that would normally be carrying and selling your product, they're down without power, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it was like a trifecta of bad stuff happening.
Yeah, in addition, our third biggest distributor in Portland was on strike within a day of that. And then our second biggest distributor in Seattle decided to move warehouses so they weren't taking product. So we literally saw a stop of revenue, but you still have all the people in the business and you still have the community that relies on you. And you kind of pout, as we all do, and you feel bad for yourself and then you start feeling bad for other people. And then it's just a matter of how we're going to get through it.
Yep. And so talk about how you got through it, because
Yep.
it's one thing to say we just wrote it out, but
Yeah.
you're talking about an organization that has upwards of 60 people
Yeah.
employed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about all of those
I mean,
elements.
one of the first things you do is have a long talk with our banker. We're really blessed to work with John Bartels at Columbia Bank, and got a hold of him. And can we have an extended credit line? Can we do some things? Because we're strong. We're just going to have a couple month hiccup here of having to really rebound. And then you kind of look at your financial position. You look for extended terms with suppliers. You look at everything you can do to get up and running as soon as that power comes on.
Yep.
So we immediately started putting plans inside that night. Right. As soon as power comes up, how quickly can we empty the tanks that are not okay? Get them out, get them sanitized, cleaned out, start the brewing process as lickety split. Make sure all the ingredients are ready to go. Make our staffing sure is ready to go. Another thing we want to do is our staff okay? I mean, the brewery's out power, but most people are without power.
Right.
And we kind of just circled the wagons. We got a hold of our insurance company. Luckily, we had some insurance on a part of it, but not all of it. And then you find a way to get better. And part of it was, okay, we're very vulnerable. I learned not to overinvest at the rate we were because it doesn't leave you any room for error. Secondly was we're going to have to innovate because we got to bounce and bounce fast.
Okay.
And at that point, we decided there was a couple beer styles that in the marketplace we weren't fulfilling. There was package styles and 12-ounce six-pack cans we weren't fulfilling. There was an immediate was the next day I was driving up on 29th and I saw this bumper sticker made out of duct tape and it said Spokane Strong.
That's right.
And I took a picture of it and I have it in my phone still. Yeah. And that was a very low point, but I also thought, it's not all just about me or NoLi. There's a lot of people hurting. And we use that as a rallying cry, I think, in addition to get better in our community. And I think a lot of that born Locale Monday, where now we feature a different neighborhood in the greater Spokane area once a month. We do a featured pint glass of that neighborhood that they can come down to the pub and get. And then we try to do a community outreach into that specific neighborhood every month.
Well, that's amazing. So you were really able to weather the storm, so to speak, and come out of it. And I love this idea of innovating quickly so that you have a quick rebound, right? And you came out with, it sounds like you came out with new styles. You came out with 12 packs of cans. I mean, those were a couple of things you just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, too, is all the people that work with and around us and all of us as a team at NoLi have to have hope, too. Yeah. And you have to have hope that we can bounce. There's a number of craft breweries in the Spokane area. When you're sort of pioneering this new economy that, a bunch of us cobbling together in the craft brewing industry are doing, it's rough, and it's getting people to believe, and it's exhausting that the belief that this could be in our own way, shape, and form a Fort Collins, Colorado, a Bend, Oregon. I truly believe that in every fiber, that we're already in that runway, but in the way Spokane wants it to be. Because we're different in those communities. But you got to keep people hanging on that's worth the sacrifice.
Yeah, and so, we've spent most of this conversation talking about innovation and the story of NoLi and weathering the storm. But one of the things that's really coming out of this conversation is your leadership style and your passion for your staff, your passion for the community in which you live. Yeah. And I just, first of all, I commend you for that, because I think that's what makes this region incredibly strong, to have leaders like you that place so much value and stewardship back into your employees and your community. So talk a little bit more about let's talk a little bit about the culture of working at NoLi. I mean,
and my friend, it's not always easy. I mean, when we're all trying to believe in the future of things that don't exist today that you can't see, and if you're working around a younger group of people that comprise this energy at NoLi, sometimes we haven't all traveled to see what Fort Collins is. What is Bend, Oregon? What is Seattle? What is that Portland craft movement? Because we don't want to copy that. We just want to borrow parts of it. Right. So one of the things we did is we took nearly 20 people to the Great American Beer Festival in Denver, Colorado this last year. We all flew out. We rented a big house, got a few cars, got to enjoy that whole festival of, I think it's 60 to 80,000 people over 3 or 4 days. And in Spokane, we got to go experience that and then bring it back of what that felt like. To me, I think experiential for me is a big part of life, but it's also figure out what makes other people tick. And for as many things as I hope that I do right, I do just as many wrong. And, as we get older, there's just different generational pieces.
But the thing, if you do things wrong, you're learning from those experiences and turning them back into positives. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's
Absolutely,
what I see that happening.
Yeah.
So what does the future look like for NoLi?
Ideally what we'd like to do is, in a perfect world, is have a decision made in 60 to 90 days of where we could have a new facility. We've been working the best we can with the city of Spokane and the mayor's office. We've been looking at a number of sites, but we're looking for a 25 to 30,000 square foot, kind of almost like an airplane hangar.
Yeah. So purely for production then?
Purely for production with a tasting room in the front and built for tours to help really build that craft beer energy. So with the future of NoLi, we'd love to build a brewery that could do 25,000 barrels based out of Spokane, employ 100 people. Be a contributor with the other craft breweries in town to this tourism, staycation, craft beer movement.
Yeah, I love it. And I understand, I mean, you were awarded Brewery of the Year or Large Brewery of the Year from Was it the Washington Beer Awards?
Yeah, you
mentioned a bunch of awards.
Yeah, very fortunate. So in
very
2015, of all the breweries in the United States, NoLi was recognized as the National Brewery of the Year. And it's based on a lot of things from operational excellence to winning beer awards to community outreach. And then in 2016, this past summer, we were named the Washington State Craft Brewery of the Year. And again, that one's based primarily on beer quality, beer awards, and how you perform in competitions.
That's awesome. And so are there, just because it's holiday season, are there any new styles coming out or new beers that you're going to be releasing here?
Yeah,
short?
Yeah, absolutely. This last weekend, we just had our Frost Fest Beer Festival with a few hundred of our closest friends at the brewery. We did 12 one-off beers that come out of our aging cellar. We have over 75 wood barrels from Dry Fly and other wineries around the country. And they barrel age from 6 months to 4 years.
Wow.
We'll rack off, blend like making a whiskey out of that, and make special beers. So we had those just out for the weekend. But we just launched our new Red, White, and NoLi Pale Ale. That's now in 6-pack cans and 22-ounce bottles, and It's a great Citra hopped IPA.
That's great. Well, I see your product all over, but for those people that don't know where NoLi is located, and I can't imagine there are any of those people, but just in case.
Yeah, we're just 4 blocks east of Gonzaga University baseball fields. If you're on I-90, take the Hamilton Street exit, pop right down behind URM, adjacent to Dry Fly, right on the river. From the outside, it almost looks like a strip mall, but you walk in and it opens up, and we got a beautiful winter patio we call the Lodge that's enclosed. We have fire pits indoors, and it's really a unique experience. It's, I think, inspired by what Spokane is. As doing a lot of hiking and camping as a young kid is really inspired by that almost day shelter feel, where you can go and make a fire, warm up, and get out. It's a lot of inspiration of the whole Northwest in there.
Well, John Bryant, now coined the grandfather of Spokane craft brewing.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I want to thank you so much for being part of our show today. I think this is a great way to wrap up our series on innovation. And as always, keep an ear out and join us for future Broaden podcasts where we continue to bring new entrepreneurs and businesses and startup activities happening in our region to you. And thanks for joining us on Startup Spokane on Spokane Talks Online.
Startup Spokane is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. We wish you a great and profitable day.
I would like to tell you about our new sponsor, Stay Fierce Senior Fitness. Stay Fierce offers conditioning programs and personal training designed specifically for seniors. Owner and certified personal trainer Tim Brummett is himself 64 years old and has lost over 150 pounds in the last 3 years, so he knows how to work with seniors to get in shape. All workouts are in a private facility, not a big, busy gym. Just Tim and his clients. Visit StayFierceFitness.net to learn more. That's StayFierceFitness.net. Of course you can do it. Stay fierce.